I sat at my childhood dinner table as my parents presented me with a $5,000 check and a one-way ticket to Portland. My sister Emma filmed everything on her phone, expecting me to show gratitude for their generous gesture to help their failure son start over somewhere else. My mother called it tough love for our disappointment. I smiled, accepted both items gracefully, and thanked them sincerely. Inside, I was holding back laughter because 3 days ago, my AgTech startup Green Harvest sold for $8.5 million, and nobody knew yet. This dinner represented the culmination of 15 years of being labeled the family disappointment. My name is Crawford, and at 28 years old, I had become an expert at enduring my family's systematic emotional abuse, while my sister Emma basked in their endless praise. My parents, Robert and Patricia, were both successful real estate agents in suburban Phoenix who had built a comfortable life selling homes to middle-class families. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family living in our 4-bedroom house with the manicured lawn and 2-car garage. Inside our home, however, favoritism ruled everything. Emma had always been their golden child. She was 3 years older than me, blonde like our mother, and had that confident personality that made adults instantly like her. When she graduated from Arizona State University with her marketing degree, my parents threw a massive party with over 50 guests. They rented a hall, hired a caterer, and invited everyone they knew to celebrate their brilliant daughter's achievement. When I graduated 2 years later with my degree in agricultural engineering, they forgot entirely. I called them the morning of graduation to remind them it was happening that day. My father said they had already committed to showing a house to important clients and couldn't reschedule. My mother suggested we celebrate some other time that never came. Emma immediately got hired at their real estate firm as a marketing manager, working directly under our father. Every family dinner became a celebration of her latest campaign success or client testimonial. She would show us her social media posts promoting luxury properties, while our parents beamed with pride. They bought her a new Honda Pilot for her 25th birthday, calling it a professional necessity for someone with such a bright future. Meanwhile, I struggled to find my place in the agricultural world. Traditional farming companies weren't interested in hiring someone fresh out of college with ideas about sustainable technology. I took odd jobs to pay rent on a small apartment while developing my own hydroponic systems in my spare time. When I mentioned my projects during family dinners, Emma would roll her eyes and make comments about my unrealistic dreams. The exclusion became more obvious over time. Family vacations always happened when Emma was available, regardless of my schedule. Christmas photos featured Emma prominently, while I was positioned awkwardly in the background, or sometimes excluded entirely when they decided the group was too large for a good shot. My father would introduce Emma to his business associates as my daughter, our rising star in the marketing world. When those same people asked about me, he would say Crawford is still figuring himself out in a tone that suggested deep disappointment. The worst incident happened during Emma's birthday party last year. She had invited her marketing colleagues to our parents' house for a barbecue celebration. I was setting up tables in the backyard when I overheard Emma telling her friend Jessica about my pathetic career situation. Crawford has these weird ideas about farming technology that nobody wants to buy, Emma said, laughing. He lives in this tiny apartment and drives a car that barely runs. Sometimes I feel embarrassed telling people he's my brother. Jessica asked if I was unemployed, and Emma replied, "Technically, he has some part-time thing at a garden center, but it's basically charity work. Our parents keep hoping he'll eventually grow up and get a real job like normal people." When they noticed I had heard everything, Emma didn't apologize. Instead, she told me I should work on being more successful if I didn't want people talking about my failures. 6 months ago, everything got worse when I was evicted from my apartment. The landlord had sold the building to developers, and all tenants received 30-day notices. I asked my parents for temporary help with a security deposit for a new place. They refused, saying I needed to learn responsibility and figure things out myself. That same week, they surprised Emma with a down payment for her own condominium, calling it an investment in her future. The contrast was impossible to ignore, but when I pointed out the unfairness, my mother accused me of being jealous and entitled. I ended up sleeping on my friend Jake's couch for 2 months while saving money for a new apartment. During that time, my parents never once asked about my living situation or offered assistance. When Emma learned I was homeless, she joked that maybe hitting rock bottom would motivate me to finally succeed at something. Family dinners during those months were torture. My parents would discuss Emma's achievements, her new condo decorating plans, and her growing social media following while completely ignoring my presence. I felt like a ghost sitting at my own family's table. Emma actively encouraged this treatment. She would bring up embarrassing stories about my teenage years, share screenshots of my social media posts with unflattering comments, and make jokes about my failure to launch in front of her boyfriend Marcus and their friends. The final insult came when they started charging me $25 every time I wanted to sleep in my childhood bedroom during visits. Emma's old room remained exactly as she left it, always available whenever she wanted to stay over. My parents explained that they needed to incentivize my independence and couldn't provide free housing for a grown man anymore. Through all of this humiliation, I was quietly working on something that would change everything. 18 months ago, while staying in Jake's garage, I had started developing revolutionary hydroponic systems that could increase crop yields by 30% while using 60% less water. My parents dismissed it as another one of Crawford's pipe dreams when I mentioned it once. Emma had laughed and told me to maybe stick to something more realistic, like a food truck. They had no idea that their disappointment son was about to prove them spectacularly wrong. 3 days before that humiliating dinner, my company, Green Harvest, had sold to AgTech Solutions for $8.5 million. After accounting for investor shares and employee distributions, my personal take was $6.2 million. I was officially a multimillionaire at 28 years old, and my family had absolutely no idea. The sale had been in negotiations for 8 months under strict confidentiality agreements. My lawyer, David Chen, specialized in agricultural technology acquisitions and had warned me about the importance of operating in stealth mode. Too many entrepreneurs, he explained, had their deals fall apart because news leaked prematurely and competitors intervened. I had deliberately kept my success hidden from my family for reasons that went beyond legal requirements. I knew that if they discovered my wealth, their treatment of me would change overnight, but not in any meaningful way. They would suddenly start treating me with fake respect and try to benefit from my money while never acknowledging how wrong they had been about my potential. The elaborate measures I took to hide my success would have impressed any undercover agent. I continued living in the modest one-bedroom apartment I had rented after moving off Jake's couch. The place cost $800 per month and had thin walls, outdated appliances, and carpet that had seen better decades. My neighbors included college students and retirees on fixed incomes. I kept driving my 10-year-old Ford Focus with its dented bumper and broken air conditioning. The car had over 150,000 miles and required constant maintenance, but it perfectly supported my image as a struggling young man trying to make ends meet. I even took it to the same discount oil change place where the mechanics knew me by name and always tried to sell me repairs I couldn't afford. My wardrobe remained unchanged from my actual broke days. I shopped at discount retailers and thrift stores, buying the same brand of jeans I had worn since college and rotating between 5 basic shirts. When my parents saw me at family gatherings, my appearance confirmed their assumptions about my financial struggles. When they asked about work, I gave carefully vague answers about consulting projects and freelance agricultural advice. Technically, These weren't lies, since my company did provide consulting services, but I never mentioned the scale or success of those operations. To make my deception absolutely convincing, I took a part-time job at Desert Bloom Garden Center, working 20 hours per week, helping customers choose plants and teaching workshops about sustainable gardening. The job paid $12 per hour and gave me the perfect cover story for my family's questions about my income. Living this double life became almost surreal. My bank account contained millions of dollars, but I lived off my garden center wages of less than $1,000 per month. I shopped with coupons, avoided expensive restaurants, and maintained the same modest lifestyle I had developed during my genuinely broke period. During this time, my family's treatment of me actually got worse. Emma started bringing her new boyfriend, Marcus, to family events, and they would openly mock my dead-end garden center job. Marcus worked in insurance sales and made decent money, which gave him license to lecture me about real careers and professional advancement. My parents began making increasingly pointed comments about how they were getting older and couldn't support a grown man forever. They instituted new rules during my visits, like charging me for meals and limiting my access to their Wi-Fi password. The message was clear. I was becoming a burden they wanted to shed. The irony became almost unbearable during family dinners, when my father would lecture me about understanding real business, while my agricultural innovations were being used by farms across California and Arizona. My hydroponic systems were helping produce the organic vegetables that appeared in grocery stores throughout the Southwest. But my family saw me as someone who couldn't even maintain steady employment. Emma would show off her social media marketing campaigns to the table, explaining how she increased engagement rates and drove traffic to property listings. Meanwhile, my company had developed technology that was revolutionizing sustainable farming practices, but I sat silently while she received praise for posting photos on Instagram. My mother frequently worried aloud about my future, wondering what would happen to me when we're not around anymore to provide guidance and support. She would suggest I look into practical careers like retail management or customer service that didn't require unrealistic ambitions. The most painful moments came when they discussed financial planning and investment strategies in front of me. Emma would share updates about her retirement contributions and property appreciation, while my parents offered advice about building wealth through steady, reliable work. I would sit there knowing I had already achieved more financial success than the rest of them combined, but unable to say anything without revealing my secret. During this period, I also discovered that my family had been discussing my situation with their friends and neighbors. My mother's book club apparently spent considerable time analyzing my failure to launch and offering suggestions for motivating young adults. My father's golf buddies knew details about my employment history and living situation that I had never shared publicly. The betrayal of privacy stung, but it also strengthened my resolve to maintain my cover until the right moment for revelation. They had turned my supposed failures into entertainment for their social circles, never considering how damaging their public criticism might be to my reputation or self-esteem. 3 weeks before the dinner, I had received my first official distribution check from the acquisition. $6.2 million appeared in my business account on a Tuesday morning, making me wealthier than I had ever imagined possible. That same evening, I sat through another family dinner where Emma complained about her stressful week managing social media campaigns, while my parents offered sympathy for her demanding career. The contrast between my reality and their perception had become so extreme that I sometimes wondered if I was living in an alternate universe. But I knew that maintaining this deception a little longer would make the eventual revelation far more impactful than any immediate satisfaction I might gain from correcting their assumptions. The dinner that changed everything happened on a Friday evening in October. My parents had called earlier that week, asking me to come over for a special family meal to discuss my future. Emma would be there with Marcus, they said. because this was an important family conversation that required everyone's input. I arrived at 6:30, parking my dented Ford Focus behind Emma's gleaming Honda Pilot and Marcus' leased BMW. The house looked exactly as it had throughout my childhood. Perfect landscaping, pristine exterior paint, and seasonal decorations that my mother changed religiously every few months. Patricia answered the door, wearing her favorite navy blue dress and a forced smile that immediately put me on alert. She hugged me with the kind of embrace reserved for distant relatives rather than beloved sons, then led me to the living room where Robert sat reading real estate listings on his tablet. "Crawford, good to see you," my father said without looking up. "Emma and Marcus are in the kitchen helping your mother with dinner preparations." The smell of salmon and asparagus filled the house, which struck me as odd since my parents knew I disliked both foods. Emma loved salmon, however, and Marcus had mentioned at previous dinners that asparagus was one of his favorite vegetables. Clearly, this meal had been planned with their preferences in mind. Emma emerged from the kitchen carrying a basket of bread rolls, her phone tucked conspicuously in her back pocket. She wore a bright yellow sweater that looked perfect for social media photos and had styled her hair in loose waves that caught the dining room lighting beautifully. "Crawford, there you are," she said with exaggerated enthusiasm. "We have so much to discuss tonight. This is going to be such an important moment for our family." Marcus followed behind her, carrying a bottle of wine that probably cost more than my supposed weekly grocery budget. He had dressed in business casual attire, as if this were a professional meeting rather than a family dinner. "Looking forward to this conversation," Marcus said, shaking my hand with unnecessary firmness. "Emma's told me so much about your situation, and we've been brainstorming some ideas that might help." We gathered around the dining room table, where my parents had set out their good china and cloth napkins. The formality felt ominous, like a tribunal preparing to deliver judgment. Emma positioned herself across from me with clear sightlines for photography, while Marcus sat beside her in what seemed like moral support formation. Patricia served the meal with unusual ceremony, making sure Emma's plate received the largest salmon portion while giving me the smallest serving of everything. The asparagus on my plate looked wilted and overcooked, but Emma's vegetables were perfectly steamed and bright green. "Before we eat, I think we should address why we're all here," Robert announced, setting down his fork with deliberate precision. "Your mother and I have been discussing Crawford's situation extensively, and we've reached some difficult conclusions about the best way forward." Emma immediately reached for her phone, opening the camera app with practiced efficiency. "I want to capture this moment," she explained. "This is such an important conversation for our family, and I think we should document Crawford's reaction to what we're about to offer." My mother nodded approvingly, while Marcus leaned back in his chair with the expression of someone about to witness justice being served. I maintained neutral facial expressions and prepared myself for whatever humiliation they had planned. "Crawford, we love you, but we can't continue enabling your lack of direction," Robert continued. "You're 28 years old, and you're still working part-time at a garden center. You live in a rundown apartment, drive a car that barely functions, and show no signs of developing any career ambition. We've tried being patient," Patricia added, dabbing her eyes with her napkin for dramatic effect. "We've offered advice, provided emotional support, and hoped you would eventually find your way. But hope isn't a strategy, and we need to try a different approach." Emma held her phone steady, filming my face as my parents delivered their verdict. Her expression showed barely contained excitement, as if she were about to witness something spectacular. "We've decided to offer you a fresh start somewhere new," Robert announced, reaching into his jacket pocket. "Your sister suggested Portland might be a good fit for someone with your interests in plants and sustainable living." He pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table toward me. The paper felt expensive between my fingers, and I could see my name written in my mother's careful handwriting. "There's a check for $5,000 in there," Patricia explained. "It's money we had saved for a vacation, but we think you need it more than we need a trip to Europe." Emma zoomed in on my hands as I opened the envelope, capturing my supposedly emotional moment of receiving family charity. The check was indeed for $5,000, signed by both parents and dated that morning. "And this is for you too," Emma said, pulling a small folder from her purse. "We researched flights to Portland and found you a one-way ticket leaving next Monday. Everything's already paid for." The plane ticket showed my name and a departure time of 8:15 in the morning. They had booked me an economy seat on the earliest available flight, clearly hoping to expedite my departure from their lives. "We know this seems harsh," Robert continued, "but sometimes tough love is the only way to motivate people who have lost their way. Portland has opportunities for people who want to work with plants and sustainable agriculture. You might find your niche there. The cost of living is lower than Phoenix," Marcus added helpfully. "You could probably find a nice studio apartment and maybe get hired at one of those organic farms in the valley." Emma kept filming as tears began forming in Patricia's eyes. My mother was clearly proud of their generous gesture and wanted to capture Crawford's grateful response to their sacrifice. "How do you feel about this fresh start?" Emma asked, directing her question toward the camera as much as toward me. "Are you grateful for this opportunity our parents are giving you?" The absurdity of the situation nearly made me laugh out loud. My family was filming themselves giving me charity money to leave town, completely unaware that I could buy and sell every asset they owned without affecting my financial situation. "I'm incredibly touched by this generosity," I said, maintaining perfect sincerity. "You're absolutely right that I need a fresh start, and Portland sounds like exactly what I need to get my life on track." Emma's face lit up with satisfaction as she captured my humble acceptance of their charity. This was exactly the content she had hoped to create, her successful family helping their disappointing sons start over with dignity and love. "Are you excited about this new chapter?" she pressed, still recording. "Do you think this will be the motivation you need to finally succeed at something?" "I'm very excited," I replied honestly. "This is going to change everything for our family, and I think you'll all be surprised by what happens next." Robert beamed with paternal pride while Patricia wiped away happy tears. Marcus nodded approvingly, clearly feeling good about contributing to this charitable intervention. Emma continued filming as I carefully folded the check and placed the plane ticket back in its folder. "We just want you to be happy and successful," Patricia said, "even if that means you have to find your path somewhere far away from us." I thanked them again for their thoughtfulness and promised to make them proud with this fresh opportunity. Emma finally stopped recording and immediately began typing on her phone, probably crafting the social media post that would showcase their family's generous spirit. As we finished dinner, I listened to them discuss my future plans with the satisfied expressions of people who had solved a difficult problem. They talked about visiting me in Portland once you get settled and staying in touch through phone calls and social media. None of them had any idea that in 72 hours, their charitable intervention would become the most embarrassing mistake of their lives. After leaving my parents' house that night, I drove back to my modest apartment with my mind racing through the implications of what had just happened. Emma's filming made it clear that this wasn't just a private family intervention. She was planning to broadcast my humiliation to her social media followers, turning my supposed gratitude into content for her personal brand. I sat in my small living room, surrounded by the basic furniture and second-hand decorations that supported my carefully maintained image, and began planning my response strategy. Revenge wasn't my goal. I wanted justice, recognition, and genuine remorse from people who had systematically underestimated and mistreated me for years. The first step was research. I needed to understand my family's current situation completely before deciding how to reveal my success. Over the next 2 days, I used my business connections and public records to investigate their financial and professional circumstances. Robert and Patricia's real estate agency was struggling more than they let on. Rising interest rates had dramatically reduced home sales throughout the Phoenix area, and their commission income had dropped by 40% over the past 6 months. They had lost several major listings to competing firms that offered more aggressive marketing strategies and lower fees. Their agency's website showed only 12 active listings, compared to 35 from the same period last year. Customer reviews on real estate platforms mentioned concerns about outdated marketing techniques and poor social media presence. Several former clients had left detailed complaints about communication problems and missed opportunities. Emma's position at their firm was equally precarious. Her marketing campaigns hadn't generated the engagement metrics that Robert had promised potential clients. Social media followers were buying fewer homes, and her Instagram posts about luxury properties weren't translating into actual sales appointments. I also discovered that Marcus had significant financial problems that Emma was hiding from our parents. Public records showed he had filed for bankruptcy protection 18 months ago due to gambling debts accumulated at Phoenix area casinos. His current income from insurance sales barely covered his basic expenses, and he had been pressuring Emma to ask our parents for loans to help with his ongoing financial obligations. Emma had been too proud to admit her relationship problems, but her credit card statements, which I could access through business databases, showed increasing stress spending on clothes, dining, and entertainment. She was clearly using retail therapy to cope with Marcus' instability and her own career anxieties. While researching my family's struggles, I made a startling discovery about my own secret philanthropy. For the past 8 months, I had been anonymously donating to local causes through a private foundation I had established. These donations had indirectly benefited my family in multiple ways that they never knew about. My $50,000 contribution to the Phoenix Community Garden Project had helped fund the Sustainable Agriculture Initiative that my parents publicly supported through their real estate marketing. They had used photos of the beautiful garden spaces in their property listings and social media posts, promoting themselves as agents who cared about environmental sustainability. Another $75,000 donation to the Small Business Relief Fund had provided low-interest loans to several of their real estate clients, helping those families qualify for home purchases during the economic uncertainty. My parents had received thank-you letters from grateful clients who praised their connection to community resources. My $100,000 contribution to Arizona State University's Agricultural Scholarship Program had funded education for 12 students pursuing degrees in sustainable farming. Emma had shared posts about supporting local education initiatives, never knowing her brother was the actual benefactor behind the scholarships she claimed to champion. The irony was staggering. My family had been unknowingly benefiting from my generosity for months, while treating me like a charity case who needed their financial intervention to survive. I also began documenting everything my family had said about me over the past year. Screenshots of Emma's social media posts, recordings of their dismissive comments during family gatherings, and evidence of their exclusionary behavior. I wasn't planning to humiliate them publicly, but I wanted them to fully understand the magnitude of their misjudgment when the truth finally came out. During my research, I received a call from Sarah Martinez, a journalist from Agricultural Innovation magazine. She explained that Green Harvest's hydroponic technology was being hailed as a breakthrough in sustainable farming, and they wanted to feature me in their Young Innovators Changing Agriculture cover story. "Your systems are already being used by farms across 3 states," Sarah explained. "The crop yield improvements are unprecedented, and the water conservation benefits could revolutionize farming in drought-prone regions like Arizona." The interview was scheduled for the following week, with publication planned for their December issue. Sarah mentioned that the article would be available both in print and online, reaching over 500,000 industry professionals, agricultural students, and sustainability advocates. 2 days later, Michael Rodriguez from the Phoenix Business Journal called about including me in their Top Entrepreneurs Under 30 feature. He had been following the AgTech acquisition and wanted to highlight local success stories that demonstrated Phoenix's growing reputation as a technology innovation hub. "Young entrepreneurs like you are putting Phoenix on the map," Michael said. "Your story shows that agricultural technology can be just as lucrative and impactful as software development or biotechnology." Both publications plan to run their features within 2 weeks, which meant Emma's video portraying me as a family charity case would be online, just as major publications announced my multi-million-dollar success. The contrast would be devastating for my family's credibility and Emma's social media reputation. I decided to cooperate fully with both interviews, providing detailed information about my company's technology, the acquisition price, and my plans for future agricultural innovations. I mentioned my humble beginnings and gratitude for the challenges that motivated me to succeed, without directly referencing my family's treatment. The timing was perfect. Emma's social media post would create a permanent record of their misjudgment, preserved online just as the world learned about my actual achievements. Justice would be served not through my actions, but through their own documented behavior contrasted against objective reality. I spent the weekend preparing for the media interviews, while my family likely celebrated their successful intervention in my supposedly directionless life. They had no idea that their disappointment son was about to become the most successful entrepreneur in our family's history. Monday morning arrived with Emma posting the dinner video across all her social media platforms. I discovered this while having coffee at a local shop near the garden center, where I still maintained my part-time job for appearances. My phone buzzed with notifications as friends started sending me screenshots of Emma's posts. The video showed me accepting the check and plane ticket with apparent humility and gratitude. Emma had edited it skillfully, including audio of my thanking our parents and expressing excitement about the fresh start they were providing. Her caption read, "Sometimes families have to make tough love decisions. Grateful our parents are helping my brother start over. Some people just need more guidance than others. Proud of my family for always showing love, even when it's difficult." Within hours, the video had gained significant traction in our social circle. Emma's friends and colleagues flooded the comments with supportive messages about her generous family and sympathetic remarks about my situation. Messages included, "Your parents are so wise to help him this way. Sometimes tough love is exactly what people need, and you're lucky to have such a caring family." Marcus shared the video on his Instagram and Facebook accounts, adding his own commentary about enabling versus empowering family members and the importance of helping people help themselves. He positioned himself as someone who had provided valuable insights during our family's decision-making process. Several of my parents' real estate clients saw the video through various social media connections and began discussing our family dynamics. I knew this because my research network included marketing professionals who tracked social media conversations for business intelligence purposes. The most painful aspect was reading comments from people who knew me personally but were unaware of my actual situation. Former classmates from Arizona State University left messages like, "Hope Crawford finds his path," and "Good for his family for not giving up on him." Teachers from my high school shared the video with comments about always believing in second chances. That same morning, I received the call from Sarah Martinez at Agricultural Innovation magazine confirming our interview for later that week. She had been researching background information about Green Harvest and was impressed by the scope of our technological innovations. "Your hydroponic systems are being implemented by farms across Arizona, California, and Nevada," Sarah said during our phone conversation. "The water conservation alone could save agriculture companies millions of dollars annually, while increasing their crop yields. She explained that their December cover story would highlight 5 agricultural innovators under age 30 who were revolutionizing sustainable farming. My profile would be the featured article, with photographs taken at one of the farms currently using green harvest technology. We're planning both print and digital distribution, Sarah added. Our online version typically receives over 2 million page views, and agricultural industry leaders share our content extensively across professional networks. 2 days later, Michael Rodriguez from the Phoenix Business Journal called to schedule our interview about local entrepreneurship. His article would be part of a special section celebrating Arizona's emerging technology economy and its impact on traditional industries like agriculture. The timing couldn't be better, Michael explained. Phoenix is gaining recognition as a hub for sustainable technology innovations, and your company represents exactly the kind of success story that attracts additional investment and talent to our region. He mentioned that the Business Journal's entrepreneur features were frequently picked up by national publications and shared across business school networks as case studies in innovative thinking and market disruption. While these media opportunities developed, I continued my research into my family's situation and discovered additional information that would make my eventual revelation even more impactful. Thomas Harrison, the CEO of AgTech Solutions who had acquired my company, turned out to be Robert and Patricia's biggest real estate client. Thomas had purchased 3 properties through their agency over the past 2 years, including a luxury home in Scottsdale and 2 investment properties in Phoenix suburbs. My parents had mentioned Thomas during family dinners, describing him as their most important client and praising his business acumen and investment strategies. Robert frequently bragged about their professional relationship and the substantial commissions Thomas' purchases had generated for their agency. Thomas had specifically mentioned during our acquisition negotiations that he was impressed by my educational background at Arizona State University and my deep understanding of Arizona's agricultural landscape. He had praised my family upbringing and assumed my parents had been supportive of my entrepreneurial ambitions. The irony was extraordinary. My family's most valuable business relationship was with the man who had just made me wealthy, and they had been disparaging me to someone who held my company in high regard. I also learned that several other agricultural technology companies were interested in partnering with me for future projects. Venture capital firms were reaching out about investment opportunities, and universities wanted me to speak at agricultural innovation conferences. My success was about to become very public very quickly, which made Emma's video timing particularly unfortunate for my family's reputation. On Wednesday evening, Emma called me to check on my Portland preparation. She was clearly feeling good about the family intervention and wanted to document my gratitude for her social media followers. "How are you feeling about the move?" she asked, her voice bright with satisfaction. "Are you excited about this fresh start our parents made possible?" "I'm very excited," I told her honestly. "This is going to change everything for our family, and I think you'll all be amazed by what happens next." Emma interpreted my response as emotional gratitude for their charitable gesture. She couldn't imagine that I was referring to the public embarrassment they were about to experience when my actual situation became known. "I'm so proud of Mom and Dad for making this difficult decision," Emma continued. "It takes real love to provide tough guidance when someone needs direction. I think this will be exactly what you need to finally succeed at something meaningful." "You're absolutely right," I agreed. "This week is definitely going to be a turning point." After hanging up, I sat in my apartment, reviewing the timeline of events that were about to unfold. Emma's video showing me as a grateful charity case would remain online as permanent evidence of their misjudgment. Meanwhile, major publications were preparing to announce my multi-million-dollar success to hundreds of thousands of readers. The contrast would be impossible to ignore or explain away. My family's credibility would be permanently damaged, not through any vindictive action on my part, but through their own documented behavior preserved in digital format. Justice was about to be served through the most powerful force available. Objective reality, contradicting their assumptions about my worth and potential. The Agricultural Innovation magazine article went live on Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Time. The cover featured my photograph standing in a greenhouse filled with my hydroponic systems, with the headline, "28-year-old entrepreneur revolutionizes sustainable farming with $8.5 million sale." The article detailed my company's innovative technology, the rapid growth that led to our acquisition, and my vision for the future of water-conscious agriculture. Sarah Martinez had done exceptional work capturing both the technical aspects of our systems and the personal journey that led to my success. Crawford's hydroponic innovations represent a fundamental shift in how we think about sustainable agriculture. The article quoted Dr. Jennifer Walsh from the University of Arizona's Agricultural Sciences Department. His systems could transform farming in drought-prone regions throughout the American Southwest. I was at the garden center when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Friends, former classmates, and business contacts began sending congratulations and sharing the article across their social media networks. By 9 a.m., the story had been shared over 3,000 times and was trending in agricultural technology circles. Emma discovered the article when her college roommate Jessica sent her a screenshot with the message, "Is this the Crawford from your video? The one your family was helping move to Portland?" Emma's response, which Jessica later shared with mutual friends, was a series of confused questions. What video? What article? Are you sure this is the same person? Within an hour, Emma's phone was flooded with messages from friends asking if she had seen the Agricultural Innovation magazine feature about her brother. People were sending her screenshots of the cover photo, excerpts from the article, and confused questions about the disconnect between the successful entrepreneur described in the publication and the charity case from her social media video. Patricia learned about my success when her neighbor Margaret called during her morning coffee routine. Margaret had seen the article shared by her daughter, who worked in sustainable agriculture consulting. "Patricia, I had no idea Crawford was such an accomplished entrepreneur," Margaret said. $8.5 million. My goodness, you and Robert must be so proud. When is the celebration party? Patricia initially thought Margaret was confused or had me mixed up with someone else. When Margaret read portions of the article aloud, including specific details about my educational background and Phoenix area connections, Patricia realized this was actually happening. Robert discovered my success at work when his assistant Jennifer rushed into his office carrying her tablet. She had been reading agricultural news during her lunch break and recognized my name from family photos in his office. "Mr. Johnson, I think you need to see this article about your son," Jennifer said, her voice filled with excitement. "He just sold his company for over $8 million. This is incredible news for your family." Robert's initial reaction was identical to Patricia's. Complete disbelief, followed by growing horror as he recognized details that confirmed this was really about his son. The son he had been calling a disappointment. The son they had just given charity money to leave town. The most shocking revelation came when Robert received a phone call from Thomas Harrison, CEO of AgTech Solutions, and their most important real estate client. "Robert, I wanted to personally congratulate you on Crawford's remarkable achievement," Thomas said warmly. "When I learned during our acquisition process that Crawford was your son, I was thrilled to know we were working with someone from such an obviously successful family." Robert felt his stomach drop as Thomas continued praising my innovations and expressing excitement about working with your talented son on future agricultural technology projects. "Crawford's hydroponic systems are going to revolutionize sustainable farming throughout the Southwest," Thomas added. "You and Patricia clearly raised an exceptional young man. His combination of technical expertise and business acumen is exactly what the agricultural industry needs. Robert managed to thank Thomas for the call while his mind raced through the implications of what he was hearing. Not only had they completely misjudged me, but their biggest client was the person who had just made me wealthy. Their business relationship with Thomas was now intertwined with their family relationship with me. Emma's panic reached full intensity when friends started commenting on her original video with questions about the obvious disconnect between her portrayal of me and my actual success. Comments included, "Wait, isn't this the same Crawford who just sold his company for millions? And are you sure you have your facts straight about your brother?" She tried calling me repeatedly, but I was in interviews with Phoenix Business Journal and didn't answer. Her voicemails became increasingly frantic as she realized the magnitude of their mistake and its very public documentation. "Crawford, call me back immediately," one message said. "People are asking me about some agricultural magazine article, and I need you to explain what's happening. This doesn't make sense." Marcus, seeing my wealth revealed publicly, immediately began trying to reach me through social media and text messages. His tone shifted dramatically from condescending sympathy to eager friendship. "Crawford, man, I just saw the article," one text read. "I always knew you had something special brewing with those agricultural projects. We should grab coffee soon and discuss some investment opportunities I've been researching." By afternoon, the Phoenix Business Journal had published their feature about local entrepreneurs, with my story prominently displayed both online and in their print edition. Michael Rodriguez had done an excellent job connecting my success to Phoenix, growing reputation as a technology innovation hub. The combination of both articles created a social media storm within our local community. Emma's video, which had seemed like harmless family content that morning, was now being shared as an example of spectacular misjudgment captured in real time. Friends, colleagues, and acquaintances began reaching out to my parents with congratulations that felt more like accusations. "You must be so proud of Crawford's success," became the phrase that haunted their afternoon, delivered by people who had obviously seen Emma's video and were highlighting the contrast. Emma finally reached me during my lunch break, her voice shaking with anxiety and confusion. "Crawford, what is happening?" she demanded. "People are sending me articles about you selling some company for millions of dollars. Are these articles accurate? Is this really about you?" "Yes, Emma," I said calmly. Green Harvest was acquired by AgTech Solutions for $8.5 million. My personal share after investors and distributions was $6.2 million. The silence on her end lasted nearly 30 seconds before she found her voice again. "But you work at a garden center," she whispered. "You live in that tiny apartment. You drive that old car. We just gave you money to move to Portland because you needed help." "I know," I replied. "I've been keeping my success private for business reasons. But now that the acquisition is complete, the information is public." "How long have you been wealthy?" Emma asked, though I could tell she was already calculating the timeline in her head. "The deal closed 3 days ago, but we've been in negotiations for 8 months. I've been financially secure for quite a while now." Emma realized that her video had been posted the same morning that major publications announced my multi-million-dollar success. The timing couldn't have been more humiliating for our family or more devastating for her social media credibility. The justice I had hoped for was being served not through revenge or vindictive actions, but through the simple revelation of truth contrasted against their documented assumptions. Their own behavior, preserved in digital format, was providing all the accountability they needed to experience. 1 week after the article's publication, I arranged a family meeting at my parents' house. The intervening days had been a whirlwind of media attention, business opportunities, and social media commentary that left my family reeling from their public misjudgment. I arrived at exactly 6 p.m., parking my new Tesla Model S in the same driveway where I had left my dented Ford Focus countless times before. I wore a tailored navy suit from a Phoenix men's clothier and carried a leather portfolio containing documents that would reshape our family dynamics permanently. The same front door that had welcomed me as their disappointment son now opened to reveal Patricia's tear-stained face and Robert's expression of profound regret. Emma sat at the dining room table with her head in her hands, while Marcus was notably absent from this family reckoning. I placed my portfolio on the table and began with the gesture that had been weighing on my mind since their humiliating dinner. From my jacket pocket, I withdrew the uncashed $5,000 check and the unused plane ticket to Portland. "I never intended to use your charity," I said, sliding both items across the table toward my parents. "I didn't need your money, and I certainly didn't need to leave Phoenix to find success." Robert picked up the check with trembling hands, noticing that I had never even endorsed it for deposit. The plane ticket remained in its original folder, completely unused and now expired. "Instead of keeping this money, I've made arrangements to donate $5,000 to Arizona State University's agricultural program," I continued. "The donation will establish the Robert and Patricia Johnson Family Scholarship for students studying sustainable farming and agricultural innovation." Patricia began crying as the implications sank in. Their attempt to give me charity had been transformed into a scholarship bearing their names, funded by the son they had dismissed as a disappointment. I opened my portfolio and removed copies of donation receipts spanning the previous 8 months. Each document showed substantial anonymous contributions to causes that had directly benefited their community and business. "I want you to see something," I said, laying out the receipts chronologically. "While you were calling me a failure, I was already donating to local charities and educational programs. The first receipt showed my $50,000 contribution to the Phoenix Community Garden Project that they had used in their real estate marketing materials. The second documented $75,000 to the Small Business Relief Fund that had helped several of their clients qualify for home purchases. This $100,000 donation to ASU's Agricultural Scholarship Program has already helped 12 students pursue degrees in sustainable farming," I explained. "Emma, you shared posts about supporting local education initiatives. You were actually promoting programs I was funding anonymously." Emma looked up from her hands with red eyes and an expression of dawning horror. "We've been benefiting from your success while treating you like you were worthless," she whispered. "Yes," I confirmed. "You used photos of the community gardens I funded to promote your environmental consciousness. Dad, you received thank you letters from clients who got loans from the relief fund I supported. Your biggest successes over the past year were indirectly made possible by the son you wanted to ship off to Portland." I addressed each family member individually, starting with Robert. "Dad, Thomas Harrison specifically asked me to convey his gratitude for raising such an innovative and dedicated young man. Your most important business relationship is now permanently connected to my agricultural technology work. Hess invited me to consult on sustainable farming integration for his investment properties." Robert's face went pale as he realized that his treatment of me could have jeopardized their most lucrative client relationship. I turned to Patricia next. "Mom, several of your real estate clients have already contacted me about sustainability consulting for their rural properties. My success is going to generate new business opportunities for your agency, assuming we can rebuild our family relationship on a foundation of mutual respect." Finally, I looked at Emma, who was still processing the magnitude of their collective misjudgment. "Emma, I've been offered partnerships with major agricultural companies, speaking engagements at universities across the Southwest, and consulting opportunities that will likely make me significantly wealthier over the next few years. You might want to reconsider your social media strategy and focus on supporting family members rather than documenting their supposed failures. I paused to let these revelations settle before addressing the deeper issues that needed resolution. "I'm not interested in revenge or continued conflict," I said firmly. "What I want is a genuine relationship with my family based on mutual respect and love, not financial status or professional achievements." I pulled out photographs of the house I had purchased in Scottsdale the previous week, a beautiful 4-bedroom home with a pool, mountain views, and enough space to host family gatherings. I bought this house because I want to build positive memories with people who value me for who I am, not what I've accomplished or how much money I have, I explained. "You're welcome to visit as family members who see me as an equal, not as charity cases trying to help a disappointment or relatives hoping to benefit from my wealth." The family's apologies came through tears and genuine remorse that had been building throughout the week of public embarrassment. Robert spoke first, his voice breaking as he acknowledged their systematic favoritism and cruel treatment. "Crawford, we failed you in every possible way. We let our own insecurities and narrow definitions of success blind us to your actual potential and achievements." Patricia added her own confession of guilt about the years of exclusion and dismissive behavior. "We turned you into our scapegoat instead of recognizing that you were working toward something remarkable. The way we treated you at family gatherings was inexcusable." Emma's apology was the most difficult to hear because it revealed the depth of jealousy and resentment that had motivated her cruelty. "I was threatened by your independence and intelligence," she admitted. "I knew you were smarter than me, more creative than me, and more willing to take risks for what you believed in. Instead of being proud of my brother, I tried to tear you down to make myself feel better about my own limitations." She explained that she had already deleted the humiliating video and posted a public apology on all her social media platforms, praising my success and acknowledging her mistakes. She had also ended her relationship with Marcus after realizing how his gambling problems and financial pressure had influenced her treatment of me. "I forgave them, but I also established clear boundaries for our future relationship. Trust has to be rebuilt gradually," I explained. "I'm willing to include you in my new life, but that inclusion depends on consistent respect and genuine effort to see me as an equal family member, not someone who needs guidance or management." I offered to help Emma explore new career opportunities in agricultural marketing and sustainability promotion, fields where my connections could open doors for her. I suggested that my parents could benefit from my business network for their real estate practice, but only if they committed to treating me with the same respect they showed Emma. 6 months later, our family attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony for my new green harvest research facility in Phoenix. The 20,000-square-foot building housed laboratories, demonstration greenhouses, and office space for the 35 employees working on next-generation sustainable farming technology. Robert and Patricia proudly introduced me to their friends and business associates as our son, the agricultural entrepreneur who's revolutionizing sustainable farming. Their pride was genuine, not performative, because they had spent months rebuilding their relationship with me through consistent respect and effort. Emma had started her own marketing consultancy, specializing in sustainable business promotion. My mentorship and business connections had helped her land clients throughout Arizona's growing green technology sector. She was happier and more successful than she had ever been working for our parents' real estate firm. The most important lesson I learned through this experience wasn't about proving others wrong or achieving financial success. It was about maintaining your integrity and values regardless of how others treat you, and understanding that genuine family relationships must be built on mutual respect rather than financial achievements or social status. My parents learned that love cannot be conditional on meeting their expectations, and that true success comes in many forms that don't always fit conventional definitions. Emma discovered that supporting others creates more opportunities than competing with them, and that genuine confidence comes from personal growth rather than relative superiority. The scholarship I established has now helped 28 students pursue agricultural innovation studies, ensuring that my success creates opportunities for the next generation of sustainable farming pioneers. These young people will solve problems I can't even imagine, carrying forward the cycle of innovation and progress that makes America's agricultural future bright and sustainable. Success isn't about proving you're better than people who doubted you. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be, despite the obstacles others place in your path, and then using that success to lift up others who face similar challenges. Have you ever experienced a situation where family members underestimated your potential or treated you unfairly because of their own assumptions? How did you handle it? And what did you learn about maintaining your self-worth during difficult times? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help others find it. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories about overcoming family challenges and achieving success against the odds, and share it with anyone who might need encouragement to pursue their dreams, despite skepticism from people they love. Thank you for listening to my story and for being part of a community that believes in supporting each other through life's challenges. Remember that your worth isn't determined by other people's opinions, and sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming the best version of yourself. Keep believing in your potential, keep working toward your goals, and never let anyone convince you that you're not capable of extraordinary things.